fastest show in sports.
Like the match in Miami, because here we go. The dumpster fire for the Dolphins is now in complete chaos. And right now you have a franchise that is as dysfunctional as any in the National Football League. Now, I could perhaps put it up against the Las Vegas Raiders, maybe, or maybe even the New York Jets. But at this point, the Miami Dolphins take the cake, because everything has been a frightening disaster for at least a season, maybe two. And you, the fans, the ones sitting out there who pay the freight right now, you are being screwed, blued, and tattooed once again. I mean, this is a franchise that is so out of control, it would take an act of Congress. Well, maybe let's not bring Congress into it because they can't get anything right these days. Maybe an act of God. Well, we got to be careful that we bring in God in there, because then somebody is going to get very upset. Maybe an act of a deity of some kind to turn this thing around. Finally, the Miami Dolphins have fired Mike McDaniel. Look, I don't know Mike McDaniel. Never met him. Wouldn't know him if I stepped on him. Well, okay, maybe I would know him because he's the only guy who is a head coach in the National Football League, or at least now a former head coach in the National Football League, who dresses like a 14-year-old who's outside of the 7-Eleven waiting for somebody to bring him a couple of six-packs of beer to go out on a Friday night. I mean, look, I'm sure that he knows football. Obviously, if you look back at his record, he's been an assistant in great teams, great franchises. And when he came here, yeah, the Dolphins were good for a couple of seasons. That's the way things work. Sometimes just when you come in and change things, everything gets a little bit better. And let's also not forget that when Mike McDaniel came in, he had a completely healthy Tua Tagovailoa at his expense, at his command. He had a quarterback who was coming off a great college season, a great college career, that is. But then again, as we all know, things changed in the health department for Tua, which we can get to at another time. But let's focus on McDaniel. Here's a guy, and this is, again, how sycophantic the media is in South Florida. There was a rumor going around, completely unsubstantiated. Nobody was able to point to exactly who said it. Usually when you have a rumor, you'll have a member of the press come out, and they'll at least have, and it used to be that you needed to have two sources to basically make any story happen. You needed two solid sources. Well, here comes a rumor out there, and it's just like, sources tell us, people tell us, blah, 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 somewhere out here in the ethereal mists of the world. Nobody was actually saying where this came from, because it was bullshit. It was another social media rumor. It was one that was propagated by the media in certain members of the media in South Florida, certainly those who have a fiduciary interest in the Miami Dolphins, who make money off the franchise and with the franchise, to say that, hey, Mike McDaniel is going to be sticking around for another season. All signs point to Mike McDaniel staying with the Dolphins for another season. Are you insane? I went on the air at that point, and I said exactly what I'm saying right now. Complete and utter Dolphin shit. I mean, there was never anything to it whatsoever, unless you consider for a moment that maybe the Dolphins did say it. They had no clue. I mean, there's things just being thrown out here. It's like a garbage pit at this point, where there's rumors being tossed out and people are falling for it. This whole McDaniel, look, seriously, I want you to think about this for a minute. Even if you're not a fan of the Dolphins, you're just a fan of the National Football League. All right? Here you have a guy who's come in with two disastrous seasons. I mean, terrible. Started this one 1-6, and yeah, was able to beat up on a couple of teams later on, but still out of the playoffs again. Mike McDaniel lost the locker room a long time ago. Probably at the same time Tyreek Hill left because of injury, because Hill is in and of himself. He's an egomaniacal disaster. But there was at least some sort of consideration that maybe he was keeping this locker room together because he had been here before. He had been on a team that was used to winning. So maybe he was actually a good influence in some cases. He disappears and gone. McDaniel has lost the locker room. He never had the respect of the players. And why should they? Because everything that happened, every decision he made was a bad one. And it led them basically to being nothing more than an also-ran franchise. So here you had this whole discussion that McDaniel was going to be sticking around for another year. Are you kidding? With what he's done? I have come up many times and I have questioned whether or not Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, who again is somebody, I'll be frank with you right here, I've never met the guy. I'd like to. Look, if Stephen Ross wanted to come on the show, and I've made the overtures a few times, if he wanted to come on the show, love to talk to him. I doubt he will, because he knows how critical I am of him. I'm not like some of the fawning media members in South Florida who are basically going to kiss his ass because he's the owner of the franchise and they don't want to lose their press credentials. No. Or they have sponsors involved for their TV or radio stations or for their internet services, if you will, their websites. No, see, it doesn't make any difference. I'd love to have him on the air, but I would hammer him just like I'm going to hammer him now. Does he have any concept of how to run a professional football franchise? Absolutely not. The disasters that have happened here. He's the guy who brought in Chris Greer, the general manager, who was an unmitigated disaster. He's the guy who basically decided to give a lifetime assistant in Mike McDaniel a shot at being the head coach of a National Football League franchise, when indeed there were many around the NFL at that time who were doing, really, there's guys out there and you're going to give McDaniel a chance? Okay, look, he's a nice guy, but he's not the one you want. People told him that, but still even Ross went with it. So here's a guy who is making every mistake possible, who is creating every roadblock possible, and you, the fans, are the ones that are paying for it. How are you paying for it? By having a really bad franchise that you pay a spitload of money to go see. You invest your money in the foam fingers, the replica jerseys, the high-priced beers and cocktails at the stadium, the ridiculous parking prices there are, everything else that's involved with it. You basically are being suckered, because they know that you're loyal fans. I know this franchise. I know the loyalty of the fans that are involved here. And you are loyal fans, but you've been used time and time again by this ownership who simply has no desire to put together a real winning franchise. Now, let's take it from there for a minute, okay? Now that McDaniel is gone, which I've been calling for at least the full season, and which finally somebody came to their senses. And how and why did they come to their senses? Gee, I wonder. Let's see. There's a whole lot of coaches sitting out there right now that are looking for work. There's better coaches out there who understand the National Football League a lot better than Mike McDaniel. So all this, we're going to keep him for another season? Come on. When you have all this option that is now placed before you, you're going to take a shot. So knowing that there could be the possibility out there of getting somebody who really is good for the franchise, what do? You got to fire the guy and you got to open up the hole. Okay, here you go. We have the vacancy. So we are now faced with the possibility, and it is rampant. As we tape this, not long after the firing happened, it is already rampant. It's before yesterday. It was all over. John Harbaugh is going to become the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Do we really have to go here again with another one of these nonsensical rumors? Let's face this one straight up, okay? Why would John Harbaugh want to come to this franchise? Here's a guy who put together an excellent program and a really good franchise with the Baltimore Ravens for 18 seasons. Granted, had his problems the last few years, wasn't able to get back to the playoffs and the Super Bowl, a shot at it. I get it. After 18 seasons, there needs to be a change, because sometimes the words of the coach simply don't land in the same place with a lot of these players. So you got Harbaugh sitting out there. Why would he want to come to Miami? It doesn't make any sense. Look, you still don't have a general manager. And we have to address that too, because there's another inference. Why would anybody, a really seasoned, good general manager, want to come to this franchise? Let's stay on Harbaugh for a moment. He is walking into a situation that is a literal, undeniable dumpster fire. Okay? Why would he want to take this chance when he's got other teams that are out there, other franchises that are out there? He still has to ask himself the same question. Does he want to be part of an ownership? Does he want to work for an owner that doesn't seem to have the best interests of the franchise in first place right there in his mind? Look, there's a lot of people already saying that Harbaugh could go to the New York Giants. Possible. He goes to New York, but does he want to put himself into that snake pit? I mean, it's not as if the Giants are a better run franchise. Yes, he's got choices right now, but there's no reason to believe that he is automatically going to come to the Dolphins. Maybe he will. Maybe they'll offer him everything. Maybe they'll finally take a guy like this and decide, look, let's stop screwing around here with assistant coaches. Let's go out and get the guy who right now is the most valuable head coach on the market in the NFL. Pay him anything he wants. I still have to ask, why would he want to get involved in a franchise like this? There's a lot of reasons out there. I mean, look, he's a head coach of a National Football League team. He's very well respected. He could come in and say, hey, I can change this. I can make this franchise better. I can make a winner out of the Miami Dolphins. Hey, look, I've done it before, so I can do it again. There's all part of the ego that's involved here. He also knows that he's going to be walking into a franchise that's going to have a new quarterback somewhere along the line, which is something else that needs to be addressed in all this, because he's going to have to rebuild the franchise in his mold. Okay, possibility sits there. I don't think it's likely, but let's leave it open because we don't know right now. Next, we have to address the general manager's position. Because remember now, this is a franchise that at this moment, as we speak, has no general manager, has no head coach, and has no number one quarterback. Think about those three things and how you're going to start to do all that. Let's deal with the GM. You're sitting out there now as a respected general manager or somebody who's in the pipeline, assistant GM, player personnel director, somebody who is looking to take the next step up and become a GM. Why would you want to take the job from the Miami Dolphins? Again, it comes up to a couple of ideas here. Number one, I don't. Because I don't want to put my head in the noose here in a franchise that is run so chaotically by an owner that seemingly has no clue whatsoever who to hire and why to hire. Why would you want to get involved? You want to go ahead and find something that's going to be a little more stable, something where you're going to have a chance to win. For a general manager's standpoint, when you walk into the Miami Dolphins, you're remaking everything. I mean, it's not as if you're going to have to start with pieces here. You've got to basically remake this franchise from the ground floor up. Yes, I know. There's a couple of players there. There's some players that you want to keep, but not everybody. You still want to remake the franchise in your mold, in your vision. But do you want to do it for this franchise? Knowing their recent history, knowing what's happened, knowing how McDaniel came in, knowing the mess that Greer made, knowing the chaotic disaster that the owner has allowed this franchise to become, do you want to be involved? On the positive side, again, same thing. I'm good. I'm being given a great opportunity here. I'm being paid a lot of money. So I'm going to come in here, and even if I only last 2-3 seasons, I'm going to do my damnedest. There's the problem. You can come in, and you can be part of rebuilding a franchise. Let's say it takes off. You're a miracle worker. Let's say it doesn't. You've lost your chance at being a GM, and now you're going to wander back into the pool and be just another person out there who failed once before. It's a gamble. It's a crapshoot they've got to take. My question is, why would anybody want to take that with the Miami Dolphins? Why would you want that to be your crapshoot? It's what everybody has to ask right now. Let's deal with Tua. Very briefly, okay? Tua Tagovailoa took all the heat for what happened with the Miami Dolphins in 2025. There's a couple of things to consider here. First of all, he was never the quarterback that he once was, certainly not the quarterback he was when he came to the Dolphins. It's not a matter of the fact that he all of a sudden forgot how to play football. He forgot how to read a playbook. That's none of it. That's all bullshit. All right? Let's go to the fact that Tua has been told several times by neurologists and other doctors that he's playing with his life because of the concussions. It is very possible that a number of these concussions have made him gun-shy. He simply is not taking the hits, not taking the gamble that he would, maybe pulling up at the last second. We don't know, and again, this is all speculation. But if you look at what happened, Tua became less of a quarterback after all the concussions happened. There's the mark right there. So Tua's already said, hey, it'll be dope if I get a chance to play someplace else. But why is anybody going to take a chance? Tua's days as the number one quarterback leading a franchise are done. The quarterback or the team that he leads at this point is going to have to be desperate because they're going to come in and they're going to know that he's got a history of concussions, and the first one he takes, he's out. I mean, once again, he's going to be sitting on the sidelines, and you're going to have to start fresh again. So it's a shame because I don't think he deserved it. I also think that McDaniel did not do a great job running Tua and running the offense around him because when Hill left, everything came apart. And this is a guy who supposedly, in McDaniel's case, is an offensive genius. A genius sure as hell didn't show up here after the injuries started to hit. And Tua was left out there trying to work with a great running back in Achane. I think Achane is one of the true stars of the NFL. But he really didn't have anybody else to work with. He had some also-rans, but he didn't have what he needed. So Tua, I'm going to say, yeah, people are going to blame him for what happened in 2025. You're going to blame him for a lot of what happened. But still, he is a part of the mess that the Dolphins created for themselves. Now, last thing. If you're a fan of the Dolphins, you're going to hate to hear this. And you are going to rail at it. You're going to want to throw something at the screen. This team is not going to be in a competitive stance for 1, 2, maybe 3 seasons. This isn't college football where you can go out and go to the portal and pick somebody up for a really good price. This is the NFL where things take time to build. You've got a new GM coming in who's going to have to decide how he wants to run this team. And again, please, sweet football gods, Stephen Ross, hire somebody worthwhile, pay him the money, whatever it is, and get the hell out of his way. Leave him alone. Let him do the job. Let him make the decisions. Trust him to do it. And stop diddling around here. Get somebody who actually is worthwhile. Okay, new GM coming in. New coach coming in. Now, if you get a guy like Harbaugh, you got somebody who knows how to run the system in the NFL. It's a good idea, but you may not get him. Hey, look, Kevin Stefanski is not a bad coach. He's still a guy who has got several awards under his belt. He's done well. His problem is he worked for the Cleveland Browns, another organization that is always bordering on lighting that dumpster fire. So you get a new coach who's got to come in. And now you've got a new quarterback. Look, please, don't tell me that Quinn Ewers is the answer here. He's a nice guy. He never stole a freight train. But to say after a minimal stint that we saw him in basically a relief role and a mop-up role in many cases, to say that he's the future of this franchise, what are you, high? Has somebody been once again dipping into the devil's dandruff? I mean, it's not set. So you're going to have to rebuild with another quarterback, which means Tua being gone, the Dolphins are going to have to go out and find another washed-up veteran somewhere to sit there and hold that second seat, and they're going to have to go heavy looking for a quarterback in the draft again. And there's some great quarterbacks coming out of college this year. But again, that's going to have to start. The process begins again. Because of what Stephen Ross and the management and the ownership of the Dolphins have led this franchise to at this point, you are looking at a rebuild. You're going to have to start from scratch. New coach is going to bring in new staff. They're not going to like some of the players that are there. They're going to have to add some of their players. Going to take a season, maybe 2. And yeah, the Dolphins may come back because they're close. Maybe they make the playoffs next year. I don't think so. Will they make it in the second year of a new coach? Maybe. But we're looking at time. What you don't want to hear is that you have been screwed, blued, and tattooed by an ownership that doesn't know how to run an NFL franchise. You're paying ridiculous amounts of money. Your loyalty has been tested over and over again, and you're going to have to wait again. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. All of this goes right back to ownership and terrible decisions that have been made over and over and over again. The Dolphins are a dumpster fire. And right now, they're one, and you can say that maybe they're not as bad off as some other franchises. It's a team right now. Look around. Find another franchise that's looking for a GM, a head coach, and a starting quarterback. Quinn Ewers, I wish him luck. If he becomes the guy, good for him. I got nothing against him. But I don't think he's the guy that's going to lead this team to the playoffs. They don't have a coach that'll do it, nor a general manager, which means we're all starting from scratch again. Dolphins fans, you have been absolutely used and abused again. You got to stand up. You got to be pissed. What are you going to do? Not go to the games? I know there's some friends of mine right now who bemoan what this franchise has become, yet they're sticking in there. I'm going to stick in because I'm a Dolphin fan. Keep paying up the money. It's going to take time. And unfortunately, this is a long-term process that the Dolphins have mired themselves in, and it's not going away anytime soon. Sit back, enjoy the show, and enjoy those few victories while you got them, because for a while, they're going to be few and far between.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.